of Around H-Town with KRBE's Freddy Cruz.
Talking summer jobs with career expert Dr. Tracey Wilen. She's written, quote, the 5 mistakes new grads make on their resumes. Welcome to Around H-Town.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Now, before we get to these mistakes, I do want to ask you about something that could pretty much apply to anybody, and that is, what is the most important thing to keep in mind if you're looking for a job and you've been out of the workforce for an extended period of time?
Well, I think the most important thing that people should think about is how do you take all your experience and skills, coursework in life, and be able to position it to an employer so that they hire you for a specific job on day one. And I think a lot of people apply for jobs that they would like to have rather than applying for jobs that they are qualified for.
Okay, so what are some of the things that employers look for when finding an employee, particularly, and let's go off of what you just said about jobs that somebody wishes they had but don't have the experience to work in. Obviously, I'm a DJ, so I'm not going to go into the biomedical field. That would be quite the 180. But for someone that's kind of switching to a similar career, what are some things to consider?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, you have that intuitiveness. A lot of people just do what I call spray and pray. It's really spamming resumes at every possible job, hoping that an employer would pick up that resume and say, oh, I got to hire that person on the spot. And that isn't really how it happens. The employer has very defined criteria. They're looking for you to match and to be in the same industry, to have the same functional background, and really to be working on day one. And I'm going to stress that, who would hire me to work on day one? That means I have to have the experience and skills to be able to contribute on day one.
If somebody's graduating with 0 job experience, what can they put on their resume that will show potential employers that they're definitely up for the gig?
Okay, so what I recommend to college students is look at your total college experience, and even in high school as well. What did you major in? If you majored in marketing, then you should position for a marketing job and show how you had perhaps a high GPA in marketing. Also look at some of the activities that you did in school. Perhaps you're volunteering to do telemarketing or social media from one of the political campaigns. That's real life experience, even though you're not paid for it, that you can put there. Or perhaps you had a summer job and you worked at a major retailer. Well, that's customer service and that's marketing. Perhaps you helped a neighbor with a party. Well, that's event marketing. So really look at all of the things that you did through school, both on campus and off campus, that can show that you understand that industry that you're positioning for.
And for somebody who might be a stay-at-home mom that has been out of the workforce, so they would be effectively inexperienced if they've been out of the workforce for, let's say, longer than 5 years, would that advice apply to them as well, or would you advise them to do something different?
Well, I think a lot of stay-at-home moms have tapped into the whole freelance, online, on-demand job. I meet so many of them actually who are Uber drivers, and I also meet so many who are working at home in lucrative administrative roles, marketing roles, consulting roles, and technical roles. So I think the key for a mom is don't stop doing activities. But if you have, then you have to do the same thing. What kinds of skills and experience did I do before I left the workforce? Have I done anything in between that I can repackage and resell to get back into the workforce?
So let's say somebody is in the merchandising industry and they've been out of the workforce for, let's say, 7 years, and they want to get back into it. What would you recommend if let's say, an employer or an employers just are not responding to the emails? Would you advise them to just finding whatever is available?
So let me walk you through a case study of a colleague of mine who actually was out of the workforce for 20 years, raising her family, and re-entered the workforce at age 68. All right, so you would say the odds are against that individual. And let me tell you what she did. Number one is she went back to anyone who had employed her in the past, who was still working.
Okay. And
went to those employers and those individuals and said, do you remember me? Can you help me get reconnected? And the outreach was incredible, because if you're a good employee, even if it's 20 years ago, you don't lose that experience.
Right.
And what they did is they really remapped her resume to be exactly what she did 20 years ago. And then she pursued part-time jobs, temp work, anything that was related to what she did, which happened to be project management, and then she got into the age-appropriate industry. So let me just talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
If you're in a certain age bracket, think about the kinds of industries that are appropriate for your age. If you're young, startups, tech, hot new media companies, radio stations, right? A lot of these are very appealing. Once you hit the 50-plus mark, you probably don't want to target those kinds of industries. You want to think about public sector, higher education, utilities, something more traditional that you see more people in your age bracket. And that's exactly what she did. She worked as a freelancer, temp, and got into higher education and is back now full-time.
We are talking jobs, all things careers with career expert Dr. Tracey Wilen. You wrote the 5 mistakes new grads make on their resumes, and I want to get to them.
Okay, number 1 is spamming. You know, this is when you spray out your resume and you pray that somebody's going to hire you.
Yeah.
And it's a generic resume. And actually today you really need to be very specific. I would rather encourage a graduate to sit down and find one job and apply one a day. It's 365 a year. The chances are you'll probably end up finding 2 jobs, but do not spray and pray, because we have applicant tracking systems that really track all the resumes come in, and you can see the same resume hitting every single job, right? So I would recommend don't do that. Number 2 is keep your resume to 1 page. It truly is a 20 to 30 second scan. You know, you don't have a lot of experience. I would recommend adults to do a 2-page resume. A lot of these technology systems, by the way, only will scan and parse out 1 or 2 pages at most. Number 3 is don't be vague. Even if you're a student and you think you don't have experience, you really do. So package it and focus it towards a job and make it meaningful. Number 4 is read some of the job descriptions. Do not apply for jobs. I just had a student tell me that she applied to a manager's job. She had never worked in her life. Why on earth? You know, you're competing with tens of thousands of people.
With experience.
And have been managers, and may have been out of work and still looking for manager jobs as directors. You're competing with a very large group. Focus only on the jobs that you're qualified for. And number 5 is don't lie. Don't lie. I can tell you how many students I meet who lie. If you didn't graduate, don't put down a year of graduate, because employers will check. They check everything.
And before we wrap, because we are in the digital age where everything is tracked, how can social media impact somebody's potential employment, and what can they do to prevent a misstep?
Right. So let me tell you first about the positive side of social media, because especially for graduates, a lot of employers are tweeting out jobs, putting them on Facebook. They want to attract the younger generation. They understand that this is the channel to attract them. On the negative side, employers will Google you as soon as you are in an interview process. They're going to look up everything, your Facebook, your Twitter accounts, your Instagram accounts. They're going to look at it all. And if there's something bad there, they're going to step away from you. So I'd recommend getting Snapchat and also removing anything off of your social media profiles that could project you in a negative way, because your brand as an employee is the employer's brand.
So much great info and insight for new grads and pretty much anybody that's out of the workforce trying to get themselves a job. I'm talking to Dr. Tracey Wilen, author of the 5 mistakes new grads make on their resumes. Where on the internet can my friends find you?
I am at Tracey Wilen on Twitter. I am on Instagram at Tracey Wilen. On Facebook, it's Dr. Tracey Wilen. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn, and any new graduate should probably reach out to me and let's network.
And I hope they do, because you've got a lot of wisdom to share. Thank you so much for coming by around H-Town.
Thank you.